Hey, what's up? Dan Blewett here. Let's go over some recruiting stuff today. So obviously currently it is December, which means for a lot of you, you're getting ready for next season, right? You're getting ready for coaches to hopefully come out and watch you in the spring. Obviously, if you're in Arizona, then, there's all this different stuff like you might be playing right now. But for the cold weather states, baseball and softball is coming up in March. So let's go over some recruiting today. Today is part one of a couple part series where I'm just gonna kind of go over like what the steps are that are involved to help you get yourself out there and to help you get yourself known to the right schools, to the place where you can find the best fit for you as a player, okay? So if you don't already, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I put out new videos each week and I'm trying to help you, your parents, coaches, understand a little bit more about your journey in sports. So if you feel like this video helps you today, definitely share with a friend, like it, and subscribe to my channel. Okay, so let's get rolling here. So number one, we've got 3 steps today, 3 steps. So number one, choose your school for academics. Number 2, we need to identify when we're ready. And number 3, we need to choose schools for our sport afterward, okay? So we're gonna go through a couple different bullet points for each of those. Okay, so let's start with step 1. So step 1, as we're looking for schools for academics, and this is really, really important because again, you have to take into consideration the fact that you're gonna be a student athlete, and the vast majority of those to whom I'm talking right now are not gonna play pro sports. So you wanna pick a school that you can play your sport at and have a great time doing that, but you don't wanna do that at the expense of your academics and at the expense of the rest of your life, your career path. So obviously you have the rest of your life to be a doctor, to be a lawyer, to be an accountant, to be whatever you want. And I do think you should kind of go for broke when you're young, but at the same time, you just want to have some kind of fallback. So you can easily be a great ball player and you can get good grades. They're not mutually exclusive. So anyway, make sure you're picking for academics. So a couple considerations here. So number 1, your major. Number 2, your career. Do you have an idea of your career path? You might not. I never have. I'm still doing all sorts of stuff at age 30, well, 33 it'll be this week. You don't have to know what you're gonna do with your life, and that's okay. But if you have an idea and you think, yeah, I really wanna go into veterinary studies, you should probably find some kind of school that you can start to nurture that. If you have a pretty decent idea, don't ignore it and go to a school where they're just not gonna give you the career path that's gonna make sense for you. A couple other considerations, could you live there? So say you don't wanna live in Minnesota because it's super cold and you don't love the cold, but you have a great offer to play a sport there, but you really wanna live in the South, you wanna get a job there after your sport. Well, maybe going up to Minnesota just to play baseball or softball isn't the best choice because you're gonna make tons of connections in the job world up there, and they're gonna be in Minnesota or in the surrounding area. So your professors and all the job fairs, you're gonna be plugged into the network where you go to school. That's not to say you can't get a job somewhere else in the country, because you absolutely can, but it's harder. So just be prepared if you really wanna live on the West Coast, the East Coast, the North, the South, wherever you wanna be, make sure you play geographic location into it, because that matters. If you feel like you could never spend your life there, or you can't be happy there, if a couple of the next things happen, like you get cut or you get injured and you suddenly can't play anymore, are you still gonna be happy at that school? You don't wanna be there just for the baseball experience or for the softball experience. You wanna be there because, you like the school, you like the area, like you could be a normal person even if you had to turn in your uniform. And then lastly, you have to remember too that would you stay if your coaches got fired? So if you're only going there because you love the coaches, that can be a valid reason, but it can also be suspect because coaches get fired. They have a couple bad years, or maybe you get there, maybe your coach has been there for 3 seasons and it's kind of not been great. 2 more bad seasons, they might be gone. So, you've got to understand that you might not spend 4 years with them, and if they're gonna make or break your experience, then that could be a suspect reason to choose a certain school, okay? So those are my big bullet points for step 1. So when you're trying to identify schools, academics, your major, your potential career path, where you wanna live, and could you still be happy at that school if things didn't work out with your sport? Those are all very important considerations, okay? So let's go on to step 2 now. So identifying when you're ready, that's an important thing. And this is just like when we were starting the recruiting process. So you can identify schools for academic reasons whenever you feel like you have an idea about it, okay? So you could be 14 years old, you could be 17 years old. 17 is probably a little late. But whenever you feel like I want to start looking at schools and narrowing my list down academically, that's fine. But then you also need to identify when you are ready to start the recruiting process. Everyone will tell you, like, sure, it is ready whenever you want it to be ready, but if you're 14 and you're 110 pounds, there's no point in doing much recruiting stuff because you don't have an idea of how good you're gonna be. Like how would you when you're a 110 pound 14-year-old? Recruiting services will reach out to you, but that doesn't mean they have your best interest at heart either, because they like money and they like staying in business. So if they said, hey, only buy our service when you're 17, like they're gonna make way less money if they said anyone between 14 and 18 can buy our service, right? So I'm not saying these companies have a malicious intent or they're just out there to steal your money, because I'm sure they're not all out to do that. But they're also not gonna shy away from saying, sure, you wanna sign up at 14? Go ahead, it'll help. Like, it may not help. So look, you need to identify when you're ready to start the recruiting process. And what that means is the following. Do you have the physicality? You need to go watch sports. So if you wanna play baseball in college, you wanna play basketball in college, you wanna play football in college, have you gone to one of their games? Have you gone to a D3 game? Have you gone to a D2 game? Have you gone to a JUCO game? Have you gone to a Division I game? Have you gone to a small Division I game? Have you gone to a big time D1 game? There's a very big continuum of ability and physicality in sports. And you have to be able to fit in with that team. So if you're this scrawny little kid and you're going out there and watching everyone's 6'1", 210 pounds, how are you gonna fit on that team? If that's what that coach is looking for, why would they want you if you're 145 pounds and 5'10"? So the physicality's gotta match the level you wanna play at. So if you wanna play big time D1 baseball, big time D1 softball, do you have the physical body to match that, or are you close? If you're not, then the recruiting process is probably not gonna start yet for you, all right? Number 2, so toolsy. Do you have the tools? Do you have the bat speed? Do you have the sprinting speed? Are you a really slow 60 time? If you're 60 times really slow, then we probably need to wait before you spend a lot of money in recruiting, or you start narrowing schools down until you get faster. So we kind of want to make sure that you are a fully baked cake, not just like I'm a sack of flour and I'm a bunch of baking soda and sugar. Let the cake bake until you're like really ready to go. Like, hey, we have a good idea of how good Dan could be, because Dan's now pretty big and strong. He can throw really hard. He's like sort of coming together as a player where I can see, for me as a recruiter, what he's gonna look like as a college baseball player. If they don't really know, if you're just still so young and so like raw, like you're looking like a little baby deer, they don't really know what they're gonna get. They're not gonna pull the trigger and offer you a bunch of money if they don't know what you're gonna be. So you wanna have the tools and the physicality. The tools, again, are like the physical metrics, like your exit speed, your throwing velocity, your sprinting speed. Like, do they see the abilities on the field, all right? The next thing, have you dominated? Have you dominated your sport? So you might hit 95 off the tee, you might run a 6'8", 60, you might be big and strong, but did you hit 260 in high school varsity baseball? Like, if you hit 260 in high school, how are you gonna hack it in Division I baseball? The answer is that you're not. So sure, you can get better every year and all that stuff, but at a certain point, you have to be good at playing your sport, whether that's baseball, whether it's basketball, whether it's football, whether it's softball, like whatever, you have to be actually good at it. So I know I've talked to tons of scouts on my Dear Baseball Gods podcast, just in person. I've been around the game a long time, and you have to be good at the sport at some point. Because they're not gonna take a kid that throws 90 miles per hour but like can't get anyone out in high school, or just like can't throw strikes. Someone will take him, but the school that he wants to go to, like maybe not. They need to see polished players who can actually perform well at their sport. So if the numbers aren't there, it's not like you can try harder, but you need to find new ways to improve your game for sure. And you just have to understand, like, coaches are gonna look at all those different things, including your stats, and they're gonna say, wow, he can't hit, he strikes out a ton in high school baseball, or she can't get players out, she can't get hits, she can't make the plays in varsity baseball. How's she gonna make the plays at Division II softball, Division I softball? So you have to remember that even though stats aren't the only thing, they're a big piece of it, okay? After that, you need to figure out how good you are, and hopefully you have a trusted source who can help you with that. So it could be someone like me. So if you work out in my academy, you can say, hey Dan, like, where do you think I should start and what school should I start looking at? Well, I'll be like, okay, little Johnny, you don't hit super hard, you're a little bit slow, you could definitely get faster, your 60 time is this, your pop time is this, like whatever it is, I think you're probably best off emailing Division III schools right now, and then maybe if you add a little more, velocity or whatever, then maybe Division II. And if you hit a growth spurt and things really come together, like maybe you could be like a low D1 player, but probably not. So you need someone who's going to be actually honest with you, because you'll just end up wasting a lot of time if you just email 50 Division I schools and you're just not a Division I caliber player. So it can be hard at times to hear that. I went to one of these things when I was a kid. I went to the baseball factory and they showed me this big continuum. It was like pro draft picks, big Division I, middle Division I, low Division I. And you know where they put me? Division III, small Division III. Because I threw like 78 miles per hour at that point. And I was like I think a junior in high school. Like that wasn't very good. I ended up playing Division I baseball. It's a longer story. You can listen to my podcast about that. But I didn't get any scholarship money. I was a walk-on. I was the worst player on the team. Like it all made sense. Like that guy was honest. He wasn't like blowing smoke and saying I should go to all these D1 showcases. He's like, you probably fit in the Division III level of baseball. So you have to have somebody who's going to be honest with you and your parents. And the other thing is look for comparable players, we'll come into that in a little bit, who can help you get a gauge. So if you know a player on your team who got an offer somewhere, or you have another kid who's already committed somewhere, how good are you compared to him? There's a lot of players who think they're going to Division I and they're not anywhere as good as another kid who's like barely going to Division I, right? So in general, the qualifications are similar, they're stable across players. One school might love this one player who's pretty good, another school might not be that interested in that player who's pretty good. They're still subjective. Who knows what the objective truth is, but at the end of the day, that's kind of how recruiting goes too, because people recruit human players, right? So just because one school isn't interested in you, another school might be, but over time, if you email a ton of Division I's and none of them email you back, you're probably not Division I. If you email a ton of Division II's and a lot of them seem interested, then you're probably at least at that level, right? So just same thing with anything else. Polling and kind of getting a good feel through surveys and through just putting yourself out there will really help. All right, so step 3, let's talk about choosing schools then for your sport, because we've tried to identify when you're ready by getting a trusted source. Did you really dominate? Are you big and strong and physical, and do you have the tools? So when you're trying to choose a school for your sport, number one, it's okay to dream a little. So, they told me Division III. Well, did I just only solicit Division IIIs? I actually didn't solicit any, but it's not to say you can't email some Division IIs and some small Division I's and just see what fits. There's nothing wrong with that, but you don't want to waste your time and theirs either. So if I went out and emailed University of South Carolina, University of Florida, Auburn, USC in California, Oregon, Texas. If I had done that as a high school player, those emails, I just throw those emails in the trash. I wasn't good enough to play there. So don't waste your time. That's why, again, you need to find someone who will be honest with you. And it might be pie in the sky. And sure, if you just feel like, I don't care, I'm gonna email them because I want to, fine. But don't go to all these visits and spend all this money at a place that it just seems very utterly realistic that you can't play there. So you can definitely dream and definitely just throw stuff out there and see what sticks, but still be a little bit realistic because you have finite time, finite resources. You can't visit every one of these places. You can't go to every camp. So try to be honest with yourself, especially when someone else has helped you. Comp players, talked about this briefly before. Finding comp players is really important. This is, again, say I want to play at a small Division II, whatever it is. I know a couple players that played Division II at comparable schools. How good are they compared to me? Objectively, I'm probably as good as they are, or maybe I'm a little bit better. Then that seems realistic that I could maybe make that happen, right? But say I know a couple guys, like a guy who's going to Arizona and a guy who's going to Texas, and they both throw 92 miles per hour and I throw 86. Am I comparable to those guys? Should I really be knocking down their doors, Arizona or big schools like that, Texas? Probably not. I'm not really comparable to them in velocity. That's just one aspect. But again, you want to find some way to compare yourself. Just again, home shopping. They price homes as, you know, realtors when you're buying a house yourself based on the other houses that sell that are similar to it in the area, right? So they do the same thing. So if you want to find out where players are going, go through Prep Baseball Report or Perfect Game. These are good sources. You can scroll down their rankings list. See where all these commits are going. You know, here's a kid who's going to Virginia. Here's a kid who's going to Ole Miss. Okay, he's a pitcher, 88 to 92. This guy's a hitter, hits 96 off the tee. He runs a 6.7. Okay, that seems like those are the qualifications those schools are looking for. So that's helpful information to, again, just try to understand who you are as a player. And just, you want to buy into where do I fit into the world. It can hurt to say like, yeah, I'm not going to be the player who, you know, played a big school in front and with the big lights and thousands of fans, and like that might not be you, and that's okay. You can still have a good college experience, but you have to be honest with yourself at some point, okay? And then lastly here, check rosters. So if you want to email, let's say Notre Dame, okay, and you're an outfielder, and you're going to graduate in 2020, okay? Well, go on the roster and see how many outfielders they have that are maybe 1 year older than you or 2 years older than you. So you go and check the roster and there's 6 outfielders who are either 1 year or 2 years older than you. Well, you're gonna have a pretty long line to wait in to play over those guys. Then look at their stats, right? Okay, this guy hit 320, this guy hit 310, this guy hit 270, this guy didn't hit very well, this guy, like whatever. How good do those players seem like? Do they have like a star outfield that's pretty set? You know, they might not have scholarship money for you there if that's the case, right? Because they have a lot of stud players and they're gonna be with the program at a similar time that you are. There's gonna be a big overlap. So that's not to say that's complete discouragement, because they always need to have new recruits coming in, but at the same time, they might just not need more infielders. They just might not need more catchers, right? That definitely happens in softball and baseball. So checking the rosters to see like, would I potentially even fit in and with a playing time standpoint? Am I gonna be sitting the bench till I'm a junior? Now, obviously you can always outcompete other people and all that stuff, but at the same time, as a freshman, just physically from your development standpoint, it is very tough to compete right away, especially at higher levels of college baseball. Like as a freshman, the reality for most players, softball and baseball and pretty much all sports, is that you're sitting the bench a decent amount, if not all the time as a freshman, and then you start to like get your feet wet as a sophomore and junior and hopefully hit your stride. So you just have to understand that if you want to say, how would I fit into this school? Look at their roster, see what the complexion looks like. Now, if there's like only a couple outfielders and they didn't play very well, and one of them's graduating, and like, hey, this might be a spot for me. Like, I think I could play at this school. Like, it seems like I'm a comparable player, and they're losing 2 outfielders, or one got drafted, and you know, I could fit in there. They're only gonna have 2 outfielders, so that might be a really good opportunity. So that can play into it too. All right, so hopefully this helped. This is just part 1. Definitely tune in. I'll put links in the description when those videos are complete. But stick around, so if you want to be notified when my next video goes out, hit the subscribe button, hit the little notification bell. It'll tell you, it'll give you a ding whenever I put out a new video. But again, the recruiting process can be really complex, so hopefully this video gave you a little bit better insight into what you should be doing and how you can start to figure out where to spend your time doing visits, emailing schools, filling out questionnaires, and that's all the stuff that I'll cover in the next video. So I'll see you there.